is a little bit about the history of relations between South Africa and the Philippines. Don't worry, it's not going to be a lecture of 2 hours long. I'm just going to take 2 or 3 minutes to speak about that. And then I would also like to try and answer the question that I'm sure many of you have. What on earth is the South African ambassador doing in Camarines, Norte? What does he want from us? So I'm going to try and answer that question. But let me first say, South Africa and the Philippines this year is celebrating 25 years of diplomatic relations, official diplomatic ties. However, the relationship goes back much longer than that. In 1830, there was a shipwreck off the coast of Cape Town in South Africa. The seafarers on the ship were Filipino. They survived. And they settled in a town called Kalk Bay just outside the city of Cape Town. At that time, you'll remember the Spanish were the colonial power in the Philippines, and many Filipinos left the Philippines at that time and settled elsewhere in the world. There was a man in this town in South Africa called Felix Flores. He's from Iloilo. So he was considered to be the father of this community. And he encouraged a lot of Filipinos to travel there and settle there, which they did. And around about the 1880s, there were about 150 Filipino families in that town. They built a church, as you can expect from Filipino people, called the St. James Parish, which is still there today. In March of this year, I went to that town, I visited the church. As a matter of fact, until 1921, the Mass in that church was conducted in the Spanish language. So today, in that village, you find a lot of people of Filipino heritage. In the main street, you find a Filipino restaurant. So the relationship between South Africa and the Philippines is not as new as what many people may think. So why then did we not have more formal relations before 1993 when it was established? Those of you who know a little bit about the history of South Africa will know that we had a government that followed a policy which was called apartheid. It was basically, in its basic form, institutionalized racism. So we had this government that discriminated against people like me, of European descent, and people who are of color. It's like a little bit like the United States in the 1950s. Black people could not vote, white people could. White people had better schools, better housing, black people didn't. So this all ended in 1994 when we had our elections, our first democratic elections. Mr. Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa at that time. And that led South Africa's relationship with the international community to be normalized. So we are quite happy with the way in which relations between South Africa and the Philippines have grown since that time. Our trade is growing every year. Our tourism flow is growing every year. We get about 7,500 tourists from the Philippines now a year. About 4,500 South Africans coming to the Philippines every year. We have many projects in areas like arts and culture, science and technology, sport, agriculture. But what was of concern to us is that a lot of this relations that we have with the Philippines is with what happens in Manila. One can understand that it is like that because it is the seat of the national government. Most of the companies are based there, and it should be like that. But I always tell South Africans who come here, if you come to the Philippines and you go only to Manila, stay in Manila and leave again, you have no idea what the Philippines is about. Philippines is about much more than Manila. So this is the answer to the question I mentioned at the beginning. Why am I here? We are interested in expanding South Africa's relations with the Philippines to provinces outside of Manila. It doesn't have to be big projects. We have now visited a few provinces already. We start with small projects. Sometimes it is just academic exchanges, sometimes it's a project on fisheries or the environment or biodiversity or arts and culture. Small projects that grow into big projects. So that is why we have been visiting the Bicol region over the last week, including then today Camarines Norte. It's Of course, I would like to see what it is. I want to experience the food and the people and the culture. But beyond that, I am interested to see that my country's relations with the Philippines also includes relations with Camarines Norte. Why should it not be like that? The relations between countries is not only about relations between governments. It's about relations between people. It's about relations between local authorities. Cities can learn from one another. Provinces can learn from one another. We also have provinces in South Africa the size of Camarines Norte with the same economic profile as this province. So that is why I am here. So I have still a few meetings before I go back. And I'm going to try and put some specific projects together which I will share with the governor once we have sort of ironed them out a little bit and put some flesh to the bones. So that really is, ladies and gentlemen, some background about where we are and why I am here. So once again, thank you so much for this reception. I really appreciate it. I don't say it because it's a nice thing to say. I really, really am honored about the way in which I have received. So please, if you are in an environment where you think, you know, maybe I'm working with something and South Africa is maybe a partner in this project of mine, then you know where to find me. So please work with us so that we can put the relationship between South Africa and Camarines Norte on the front foot. Thank you very much.